In the depths of Lake Tanganyika, there is a fish that lives inside a shell. The cichlid Neolamprologus multifasciatus is one of the smallest of its kind, and it spends its life in a constant state of territorial anxiety. Every shadow could be a predator, every neighbor a rival. This environment of perpetual risk raises a simple question: when is it safe to become unconscious? For these fish, the answer appears to be almost never. Researchers have observed them demonstrating behavior that looks less like consolidated sleep and more like a series of brief, hypervigilant naps. They aren't just sleeping lightly. Their entire temporal behavior seems to be a negotiation with danger. This isn't a defect, it's an adaptation. We call it phenotypic plasticity, the ability of an organism to change its behavior in response to its environment. Sleep is metabolically expensive to reverse. Waking up takes time and energy, a luxury a tiny cichlid doesn't have. So, when fry are present, the parent fish almost entirely forego rest. Their sleep debt accumulates, yet they function, driven by the more immediate imperative of protecting their genes. They become living examples that sleep isn't a fixed daily requirement, but the losing end of a constant evolutionary trade-off between restoration and survival. This flexibility isn't exclusive to fish under pressure. Consider the dolphin, an animal that must surface to breathe. Full unconsciousness would be a death sentence. The solution is unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. One half of the dolphin's brain sleeps while the other remains fully alert, controlling swimming, breathing, and monitoring for threats. After a few hours, they switch. An EEG of a sleeping dolphin would show one side of the brain with the deep, slow waves of sleep and the other with the rapid, active waves of wakefulness. They are literally and necessarily half awake at all times. What mechanism governs this incredible control over consciousness? In your head, just above where your optic nerves cross, sits the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a tiny cluster of neurons that acts as your master clock. It receives light information and synchronizes your entire body. But a fish doesn't have one. Its timekeeping is decentralized. The pineal gland, located on top of its brain, is directly photosensitive, acting like a third eye that measures the ambient light of day and night. Furthermore, individual cells throughout its body, in its heart, its liver, its fins, all contain their own molecular clocks. Yet, the software running on this distributed hardware is ancient and deeply familiar. The core mechanism is a transcriptional translational feedback loop. Two proteins, aptly named clock and BMAL1, bind together and initiate the transcription of other genes, including period, per, and cryptochrome, cry. As per and cry proteins build up in the cell, they eventually travel back to the nucleus and inhibit the activity of clock and BML1, shutting down their own production. Over roughly 24 hours, the per and cry proteins degrade and the cycle begins again. This elegant loop ticks away in the cells of a cichlid just as it does in yours. If the environment can shape sleep, what happens when the most powerful environmental cue of all, the sun, is removed entirely? In the submerged caves of Mexico lives a blind, pigmentless fish, Osteonax mexicanus. For millennia, these cavefish have existed in perpetual darkness and relative safety with scarce food. In this reality, sleeping is a waste of valuable foraging time. And so, they have almost evolved away the need for it. Surface-dwelling variants of the same species sleep for over 10 hours a day. The cave dwellers? Less than 2. They have traded sleep for time. The genetic basis for this radical change is astonishingly specific. Scientists found that the cavefish's sleeplessness is heavily linked to a mutation in the hippocretin receptor. Hippocretin, also called orexin, is a neuropeptide that powerfully promotes wakefulness. The cavefish have essentially turned up its volume, making them constantly alert. What's remarkable is that in humans, a loss of hippocretin-producing neurons causes narcolepsy, an irresistible urge to sleep. The same neurological switch that throws humans into uncontrollable sleep has been manipulated by evolution to keep a fish awake permanently. It's not a different system, it's just the same dial being turned in the opposite direction. This all leads to a profound question about biology. We frame sleep as a fundamental, non-negotiable requirement for complex life, like breathing or eating. But the evidence suggests it might be more like a strategy, an exquisitely effective piece of software for energy management that evolved when the world was predictably dark and dangerous. But when the rules change, when darkness is permanent or danger is constant, life can and will rewrite the code. The need for sleep might not be a universal law, but merely the most common answer to a question that every living thing has to ask itself. Given the world I live in, what is the best use of my time?
Monotony has grown fast. Nearly 2,700 people have watched in the last few weeks, yet less than 0.03% are subscribed. It would mean a lot if you joined by hitting subscribe. And again, thanks for watching.